Hey guys, Blake here with Rack Attack, your #1 spot for all things adventure. Now today we're going to be doing a quick dive into rooftop tents. Now whether you are new to the rooftop tent camping scene or you're just looking to upgrade your setup, this video is going to be designed to help you make a more informed decision. So we're going to be doing a little bit of the history and evolution of rooftop tents, where they came from and where they are at today, as well as finding out what separates some of these rooftop tents to help you, like I said, make that more informed decision. So buckle up, or should I say zip up. Let's get into it. Now, believe it or not, rooftop tents have been around longer than your uncle's RV. Now, while patents for rooftop tents go back to the 1920s, it wasn't until 1958 that an Italian company called Autohome made the first commercially available models. Now, these early first iteration of rooftop tents were really designed for safari-style adventure. Above the ground, sturdy, able to protect the guys out on safari for some of the adventures lurking down below. But as the automobile evolved, so did the rooftop tents. Well, what about today? Today, we got some of the sleeker hardshell designs, or even some of your lighter weight softshell designs, to be able to cover every box on your checklist and fill it full of as much wanderlust as humanly possible. Now, here at Rack Attack, we got some of the best on the market today. So we will be going over those, but before we get into that, let's talk about the most important part of your whole setup. Now yes, the most important part of your setup is the roof rack itself. Now let me be clear, roof racks are all not created equal. Your average aftermarket roof rack is rated to typically 165 pounds dynamic load rating. That means that's the weight that you're carrying on your rack itself while you're driving around town. Now, I hope to God nobody's in your rooftop tent while you're driving around town. Now, for example, let's say your tent itself weighs 150 pounds. Your rack is rated to 165. That gives you 15 pounds of wiggle room to be able to put anything additional on top of your rack system. Now, typically, how do people inside of the rooftop tent actually play into this? Well, that's where we enter in your static load rating. Your static load rating typically is going to be higher than your dynamic load rating. You always want to refer back to your vehicle's owner's manual to check and see what your roof is actually rated for, but typically the rule of thumb is that your static load rating, while you are not moving, when people are typically in a rooftop tent, is usually 2 to 3 times higher than your dynamic load rating. So that, in essence, is how a rooftop tent actually works on a roof rack that's only rated for 165 pounds. So just to recap, dynamic load rating does not include people in your rooftop tent. That just is what you are carrying while you're driving around town. Now, your static load rating is while you are stationary, not moving. That is when the factor of people or occupants in your rooftop tent come into play. Now, a lot of the rooftop tents you're going to see on the market today get really boiled down into 2 main categories: your hard shell tents and your soft shell tents. Now, each style has its own perks, but when picking out a tent for you, a few things you want to consider is what vehicle is the tent going on, i.e. the rack that you are putting it on, as well as your budget and how often you're actually going to be using the tent. Now, the first style of rooftop tent that we're going to be talking about is the hard shells. Now, the hard shells, how we define them is that they have a hard lid or shell for the tent that is going to end up enclosing everything like the canvas inside. Now, there is always pros and cons to whatever route you go. Remember, this is all personal preference, really, when you boil it down. Now, your hard shell tents, like the iKamper Mini that I have behind me here, there's a few benefits to this particular style of tent, as well as hard shell tents in general. They're usually a lot quicker and easier to set up and tear down. Most of your hard shell tents nowadays will take you about a minute to a minute and a half to set up once you end up actually figuring out how to open it, which is super, super simple. Now also, they are going to be typically on the heavier side. Now there are some exceptions to the rule, iKamper being one of them, and it usually involves the shell construction of the tent. What I mean by that is that iKamper goes in for an FRP shell. So this is fiberglass reinforced plastic that is actually going to be extremely lightweight and very, very durable. Now, some of your other brands on the market today also opt in for an aluminum composite that ends up being a little bit on the heavier side, but is also extremely durable. So really when you boil it down, like I said, it does depend on preference, but iKamper has been a leader on the market for a very, very long time. The big thing for these guys is that the quality screams out over some of the other guys you're going to see on the market today. Now, a con, if any, to a hard shell tent is that typically your hard shell tents are going to be a little bit more on the expensive side in comparison to the soft shells. So if you're on the fence on your entry-level tent, sometimes a soft shell, which we'll go over, might be the route that you want to go down. But it all depends on your preference. Let's talk about some of the more prominent brands on the market today as well as what they offer. Now, first up is going to be iKamper. Now, founded in 2012 by Soon Park, because of his fascination with tree houses, iKamper quickly rose to Kickstarter glory, raising $2.3 million for their original Skycamp design. They end up being a leader very, very quickly in the rooftop tent market. Now, made in South Korea, they are known today for some of their thoughtful and thought-provoking features that they actually have into their tents today. It is probably one of the highest grade rooftop tents you're going to find, hands down, doesn't matter who you ask. Now, when it comes to iKamper's Skycamp line of tents, you do have a few different models to choose from. Now, the one that I have behind me here is the 3.0 Mini Deluxe. Now, the Deluxes versus the regular Skycamps, there's a few different things that set them apart. Now, when iKamper first came out with their tent Skycamp line, it only came in one size, which is pretty big, typically a 3 to 4 person tent. Now, over time, they end up seeing the need from a lot of their customers that they listen to is that having a mini version for some of those smaller compact vehicles actually is a great idea. Now, for the mini version, it is really a 2-person tent. For a lot of people, it is just right. Now, for the 2.5-inch polyfoam mattress that the original 3.0 Skycamp comes with, it is more compressible. And that's a really good thing, because when you're actually driving around town, you're not actually using your tent, but you might want to store some bedding inside of it. So you always have that on hand when you decide to do that impromptu camping trip. Now, with that compressible mattress, you're actually now able to fit more items inside of the tent. Now, with the deluxe versions, that takes it one step further. They actually have now an inflatable mattress that even compresses even more than the polyfoam mattress that you find in the base model 3.0 tents. So, the big pros for the iKamper Skycamp series is the actual mattresses themselves, as well as its lightweight construction. Because they opt in to use a FRP shell, it is actually extremely, extremely light. Your big version, the big Skycamp, actually comes in at 165 pounds for a 3 to 4 person tent. That is virtually unheard of. Now, also with the Skycamp Mini, it ends up being a little bit different. It's only 125 pounds. Now let's go into the softshell tents. Now, typically your softshell tents are going to be your more traditional and original style of rooftop tent that you're still going to find very, very commonly on the market today. Now, typically they are going to be a little bit more bulkier than your hard shell tents, but they are going to be a little bit on the cheaper side on average that you're going to find in comparison to the hard shell tents. Now, the other pro to a softshell tent is that they're going to be typically a lot lighter on average. They don't have a big shell that's going to encompass everything in. The reason why we discuss a soft shell versus a hard shell is that a soft shell is encompassed by an actual waterproof bag that actually is zipped in or tied into the actual tent itself. Now, that being said, that bag is fully replaceable if you were to ever end up having an accident, you accidentally cut it, something along those lines. That's a really, really big pro for a lot of people, so that you can maintain your investment on your rooftop tent so you can enjoy it for years and years to come. Now, if you've never heard of Thule before, I don't know where you've been. They've been around since 1942, founded by Eric Thule. Now, Thule, actually, their very first product they ever made, believe it or not, was fishing traps. Now, fast forward quite a few decades now, and Thule's now a global leader in mobile gear transport, rooftop tents included. Now, the tent you see behind me here is one of their newer offerings, is the Approach. Now, the Thule Approach does have a few different design features that really set this guy out in front of the other guys. Obviously, a massive thing you see right off the bat is the big, big windows that you have here. These are actually made with stargazing in mind. As well as the mattress that they actually have in this tent is quite thick as well. So a big thing for your rooftop tent experience is the mattress. Now, I always recommend a lot of people, if you have a rack attack in your town, go in, actually get into some of these tents, lay down in them, see what you like, see what you don't like. Everybody's sleeping experience is going to end up differing. So maybe this tent is going to be perfect for you. It may not be perfect for other people. That's why when you actually are able to go into an actual brick and mortar store, to actually touch it, feel it, get into one of these rooftop tents to try it out before you buy it. That's a big, big peace of mind for a lot of people, because a lot of these rooftop tents you're getting is actually an investment. You want to make sure that the investment that you're getting for your vehicle or for your camping experience, it's actually going to be money well spent. And I'll tell you right now, the Thule Approach does not disappoint. The Approach actually comes in 3 different sizes, a small, medium, and a large. The small comes in at only 110 pounds, so it's a very, very light tent. The medium comes in at 128 pounds, and the large comes in at 150. Now, the Approach is not a hard shell tent. This is a soft shell tent, which is the reason why it's typically a little bit lighter. Now, when the tent is actually closed, you don't have that hard shell that encases everything in. It actually relies on a waterproof covering that you zip in to the base of the tent. So I'll tell you right now, the Approach is probably one of the coolest tents you're going to find on the market today, and the quality on basically everything that Thule makes is second to none. So every single person I've ever seen with the Approach, I've never heard anybody disappointed in it. This tent is awesome. Go get yourself one. Well, there you have it. The crash course on the past, present, and future of rooftop tents. Now, whether you're going for a weekend getaway or you're going to be off-grid for weeks at a time, the right rooftop tent will change the way that you travel. Now, just remember, check your roof rack load rating to make sure that your rooftop tent will actually be compatible with your vehicle. Now, also know your tent type and style that you really would like, as well as match the tent with your adventure needs. Always make sure that your tent also is going to be able to carry the amount of occupants that you want to end up taking with you when you go on your adventures. Now, you're still not 100% sure yet? No worries. With over 40 locations across North America and over 25 years of experience in the rack game, one of our distinguished professionals is here to make sure your rack setup is safe, roadworthy, and reliable. Now, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell for any other notifications coming from us here, and comment down below if there's anything else you'd like to see us do in the future. We'll see you out there.